3 volcanoes, same country, all active, all right now. I have to say, when I pulled up the Volc's monitoring dashboard this week, I just stared at it. Mayon, Kanlaon, Taal, 3 of the most dangerous volcanoes in the Philippines, all simultaneously showing eruption activity, all at elevated alert levels, all being monitored around the clock by state volcanologists. And guys, this isn't some distant, unpopulated corner of the Earth. We are talking about the Philippine archipelago, a nation of 115 million people, living on one of the most volcanically active island chains on the entire planet. And right now, 3 of its most notorious volcanoes are awake at the same time. Further in this video, I'll explain why this is happening, and what the science actually tells us about whether these 3 volcanoes are connected, because that answer might surprise you. Stay with me. Let me lay out exactly where we are right now, because each of these 3 volcanoes tells a completely different story, and together, they tell something even bigger. Let's start with Mayon. As of the first week of April 2026, Mayon Volcano has been in a sustained, effusive eruption for 91 consecutive days, marked by persistent lava flows, intermittent lava fountaining, and ongoing ash emissions, according to Volc's. 91 days, guys. 91 days of continuous eruption. During the week of April 2nd through 8th alone, Volc's recorded 217 to 356 rockfalls every single day, 0 to 12 pyroclastic density currents, between 32 and 159 volcanic earthquakes daily, sulfur dioxide emissions averaging 1,519 to 2,558 tons per day. Let those numbers breathe for a second. Up to 356 rockfalls in a single day, on a volcano with a city on its doorstep. Lava flows remain established and actively channeled through 3 major gullies: 3.8 kilometers down Basud Gully, 3.2 kilometers down Bonga Gully, and 1.3 kilometers down Miisi Gully. Mayon remains under Alert Level 3, indicating intensified magmatic unrest and the continued possibility of hazardous eruption scenarios. Alert Level 3 out of 5. That means magma is at the crater. Right now. Now. Kanlaon. Volc's reported that on April 12th alone, Kanlaon registered 150 volcanic earthquakes and 4 separate periods of volcanic tremor, each lasting between 40 minutes and 1 hour and 40 minutes. The following day, 102 volcanic earthquakes and 2 more tremor periods, 150 earthquakes in a single day from a single volcano. On April 5th, Kanlaon produced 3 separate ash emission events, at 1:10 p.m., 3:10 p.m., and 5:09 p.m., generating grayish plumes rising between 350 meters and 1.2 kilometers above the summit crater, drifting southwest. The activity was accompanied by 49 volcanic earthquakes, including 3 tremors lasting up to 91 minutes. Kanlaon remains under Alert Level 2, 3 eruption pulses, in a single afternoon. Now, Taal. On April 10, 2026, Taal Volcano recorded a minor phreatomagmatic eruption at 1:45 p.m. at the main crater, generating a 200-meter plume captured by thermal cameras on the crater rim. Volc's described it as a pusingat, a localized steam-driven explosion. And just 4 days before that, a phreatic eruption at 3:08 a.m. on April 6th, lasting 2 minutes, produced a plume rising 200 meters above the crater lake. Sulfur dioxide emissions from Taal averaged 858 tons per day on April 7th. The alert level remains at 1. 3 volcanoes, 3 alert levels, 3 completely different eruption styles happening simultaneously. This is not a drill. Now let me bring this down to earth, because behind every alert level is a community of human beings, living in the shadow of something they cannot control. As of April 7th, 2026, a total of 4,020 people, 105 families, were staying in 12 evacuation shelters around Mayon. An additional 85 people were sheltering with friends or relatives, over 4,000 people, not in their homes, sitting in evacuation centers, waiting, not knowing when they can go back, not knowing if there will be anything left to go back to. And then there's this detail from Mayon that absolutely blew me away when I read it. Despite the ongoing eruption, tourists have continued flocking to Albay province to photograph Mayon's glowing lava flows, its ash plumes, and the fiery glow of the crater at night. Local guides, photographers, even couples choosing it as a backdrop for prenuptial photo shoots, have turned the active eruption zone into a tourism attraction. You read that right. Pre-wedding photos. In front of an actively erupting stratovolcano, under alert level 3. Honestly, I don't know what to say about that, but that's the reality. While 4,000 people are displaced in shelters, others are taking engagement photos. Human beings are incredible creatures. And around Kanlaon, the situation is serious too. FIVOLC's director Teresito Bacolcol confirmed that the ash emission activities at Kanlaon are expected to continue, explaining there is pressure building beneath the volcano, possibly caused by steam or hydrothermal activity where superheated water is building toward explosive release. Kanlaon has been under alert level 2 since July 2025. Since July 2025. 9 months of elevated unrest. And in the communities closest to Kanlaon, ashfall has been drifting southwest, onto farms, onto rooftops, into lungs, affecting agriculture, transportation, public health. A rapid assessment of the February 19th Kanlaon eruption found that municipalities and communities to the southwest of the volcano were the most affected, with modeled ashfall thickness ranging from 0.01 millimeters to 3 millimeters across central Negros Island, documented through satellite data, FIVOLC's reports, and verified social media footage from affected communities. That's the scale. A single eruption, measurable ashfall across an entire region of an island. Guys, before I go deeper into the science of what is actually happening beneath these islands, do me a favor. Hit that like button and the hype button. Share this with someone who needs to know. Leave me a comment with your reaction. It genuinely helps get this information to more people, and it costs you absolutely nothing. Now, let me explain the science, because this is where it gets really, really interesting. 3 volcanoes erupting at the same time. The obvious question everyone is asking is, are they connected? Is something triggering them all? Is the Philippine crust doing something we should be worried about? I want to give you the honest, science-based answer, because there's a wrong way to answer this, and a right way. FIVOLC's has explicitly stated that the near-simultaneous unrest across multiple volcanic centers in the Philippines should not be considered causally related. Each volcano is being treated as an isolated process driven by its own internal dynamics. That's the official position. And scientifically, it makes sense. Here's why. Each of these 3 volcanoes sits above a completely different part of the Philippine subduction system. They have different magma sources, different plumbing networks, different histories. Mayon is a classic open-vent stratovolcano. Lava has been continuously supplied to its summit for months. Kanlaon is a different beast entirely. It's driven by hydrothermal and magmatic pressure, steam and gas building up inside the edifice until it can't hold anymore. And Taal? Taal is arguably the most complex and most dangerous of all 3. Taal sits inside a 15 by 20 kilometer caldera, largely filled by Lake Taal. The 267 square kilometer lake surface sits only 3 meters above sea level. The maximum depth of the lake is 160 meters, with several submerged eruptive centers beneath it. Think about what that means. Taal's crater is essentially a volcano, sitting inside a lake, sitting inside a larger caldera, sitting 50 kilometers from Manila. When Taal erupts explosively, it doesn't just send ash upward. It interacts with the enormous volume of water above it, and water plus magma equals something called a phreatomagmatic explosion. FIVOLC's reported that on April 9th, a minor phreatomagmatic event at Taal ejected dark material above the lake's surface and produced a plume rising 300 meters. Sulfur dioxide emissions on that same day averaged 732 tons per day. A second phreatomagmatic event occurred the following day, April 10th, lasting 1 minute, again ejecting dark material above the lake. Dark material. That's not steam. That's volcanic ejecta being hurled into the air from a lake-submerged vent. And when the bigger version of this happens at Taal, it is catastrophic. Let me remind you what happened just 6 years ago. In January 2020, Taal erupted violently. Ash reached Manila. 400,000 people were evacuated. And right now, Taal is doing this again, on a smaller scale. But the plumbing system beneath it? Still very much pressurized. Now let me explain why Mayon specifically is behaving so unusually right now. because the SO2 numbers are frankly astonishing. Sulfur dioxide emissions from Mayon during its current eruption have averaged 2,466 tons per day, with a single-day peak of 6,569 metric tons on February 4th, the highest SO2 emission level in 15 years according to 5volcs. That record was later broken on March 6th, when emissions reached 7,633 metric tons in a single day. 7,633 metric tons of sulfur dioxide in one day, from one volcano. To put that in perspective, SO2 is the gas that forms sulfuric acid in the atmosphere. It causes acid rain. It can trigger respiratory emergencies across entire provinces. And it tells scientists that the magma supply feeding Mayon is enormous, fresh, and continuous. By February 15, 2026, Mayon had produced an estimated 11.82 million cubic meters of lava from its summit. When combined with other volcanic debris, roughly equal in volume, the total estimated volcanic output reached 23.64 million cubic meters. 23.64 million cubic meters. Do you want to know what that looks like in a real-world scale? That's enough material to fill roughly 9,500 Olympic swimming pools. Pouring down the slopes of a mountain, over the span of just 6 weeks. Now I did a little research, because I always want to know, has this happened before? 3 Filipino volcanoes simultaneously active? And more importantly, what has each of these volcanoes done when it truly let loose? Let me take you through the history. Mayon first. Historical records show Mayon has erupted 65 times in the past 5,000 years, making it the most active volcano in the Philippines by a significant margin. 65 eruptions in 5,000 years. That's an eruption roughly every 77 years on average. But the intervals are not regular, and some eruptions have been far more violent than others. The 1814 eruption of Mayon buried the town of Cagsawa under pyroclastic flows. The ruins of the church tower still poke out of the lava field today. It's one of the most iconic photographs of volcanic destruction in the world. Now Kanlaon. Sulfur dioxide emissions at Kanlaon have averaged 2,800 tons per day since unrest began in June 2024, and have averaged 1,460 tons per day throughout 2026. The seismic network has recorded daily volcanic earthquakes consistently throughout this period. Kanlaon has been restless since June 2024, nearly 2 years. And the pattern of escalating earthquakes, particularly the spike to 150 earthquakes in a single day on April 12th, is exactly the kind of signature scientists watch when they're concerned about the possibility of a larger event. And Taal. The history here is the most sobering of all. Taal Volcano is one of the most active in the Philippines with 39 recorded historical eruptions, all concentrated on Volcano Island at the center of Lake Taal. Its recorded death toll stands at approximately 6,000 people across its history. Because of its proximity to populated areas and its eruptive history, it was designated a decade volcano, a list of volcanoes considered worthy of close study to prevent future natural disasters. 6,000 deaths, a decade volcano, sitting 50 kilometers south of Manila, a city of 13 million people, and right now producing phreatomagmatic eruptions almost weekly. I have to say, when you line up those 3 histories side by side, Mayon's 65 eruptions, Kanlaon's 2 years of building unrest, Taal's 6,000 historic deaths, and then you realize all 3 are simultaneously active right now. It puts pressure on your chest just thinking about it. So what does this mean beyond the Philippines? Because this is the part most coverage is completely missing. The Philippines sits on the western edge of the Pacific Ring of Fire, the same tectonic system that just produced the Indonesia 7.8 earthquake, the same system that shook Tonga, the same system responsible for more than 90% of the world's earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. And the Philippine Mobile Belt, the specific tectonic structure these 3 volcanoes sit above, is one of the most tectonically complex zones on the planet. The Eurasian plate is subducting beneath it from the west. The Philippine Sea plate is subducting from the east, 2 plates, simultaneously driving material downward, melting it, feeding it upward as magma, into volcanoes like Mayon, like Kanlaon, like Taal. This is not random, this is a system, and the system is expressing itself right now. 5volcs has clarified that the concurrent unrest does not mean the volcanoes are influencing each other. Each is driven by its own internal dynamics. However, the agency has also emphasized these events should be treated seriously, and that entry into all permanent danger zones remains strictly prohibited. So they're not triggering each other. But they are all responding to the same deep geological reality, a subduction system that is continuously active, continuously building pressure, continuously feeding magma into the crust. And here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud, but I have to say it. Mayon has been erupting for 91 days straight and shows no sign of stopping. Kanlaon spiked to 150 earthquakes in a single day just this week, and Taal produced 2 phreatomagmatic eruptions in just 4 days. The trend line is not moving in a calmer direction. So what should we be watching for? And what are authorities actually doing right now? For Mayon, the key indicator is the lava flow front. Volcanoes has warned that as unstable lava piles up and collapses along Mayon's upper slopes, similar pyroclastic density current events may continue. PDCs, mixtures of fragmented volcanic particles, hot gases, and ash, rush down slopes at extremely high speeds and can incinerate and bury everything in their path. If those lava flow fronts advance further down the gullies, the danger zone will expand, and that means more evacuations, more families displaced. For Kanlaon, the critical thing to watch is whether that 150 earthquake spike on April 12th was a one-off or the beginning of an escalating sequence. Volcanoes reported ash emissions from Kanlaon on every day from April 9th through April 13th, 5 consecutive days of ash emissions. Sulfur dioxide ranged from 610 to 2,470 tons per day across that same period. 5 straight days of ash emissions. Sulfur dioxide spiking toward 2,500 tons in a single day. That is not a quieting volcano. That is a pressurizing one. For Taal, the specific scenario that keeps volcanologists awake at night is a transition from these small phreatomagmatic events to something larger. Volcanoes has stated that at alert level 1, sudden steam-driven or phreatic eruptions, minor phreatomagmatic events, volcanic earthquakes, ashfall, and hazardous gas emissions may still occur and pose danger within Volcano Island. If the trend is one of increasing unrest, eruption is possible within weeks. Eruption is possible within weeks. That is the official wording from the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology. Not my words, their words. And aviation is a real concern too. Volcanoes has reiterated its advisory to aviation authorities and pilots, warning that flying close to any of these active summits poses serious hazards to all types of aircraft. 3 flight hazard zones, simultaneously active. In one of the busiest aviation corridors in Southeast Asia, I want to put one more thing on the table, because it matters enormously. This is happening before peak typhoon season in the Philippines. Typhoon season in the Philippine archipelago runs June through October. And here's the thing about volcanoes and typhoons that most people never think about. When a typhoon dumps hundreds of millimeters of rain onto a volcano that has been depositing fresh pyroclastic material and lava for 91 consecutive days, that rain interacts with the unstable volcanic deposits and creates lahars, volcanic mudflows, rivers of superheated debris that move faster than you can run. Mayon slopes are currently covered in newly deposited lava flow material. Fresh pyroclastic debris, unstable rubble. Secondary explosions, caused when groundwater, rainwater, or river water suddenly meets very hot lava, can generate rockfalls, ash emissions, and ballistic projectiles. Officer in charge at the Mayon Volcano Observatory, Doreen Abelinda, confirmed such explosions may not always produce ash or gas simultaneously, making them difficult to predict. Rain hits hot lava, steam explosion, rockfall, ballistic projectiles, without warning. If a typhoon tracks directly over Luzon in the coming months, while Mayon is still actively erupting, the lahar risk alone would be extraordinary. The Philippines has faced this before. After Mount Pinatubo erupted in 1991, lahars continued devastating communities for years afterward. Every typhoon season, every heavy rain, new flows of debris cascading down the slopes, we need to keep that possibility firmly in mind. Guys, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology, Volcanoes, is doing incredible work here. They are monitoring 3 simultaneously active volcanoes, issuing daily bulletins, coordinating evacuations, warning pilots, warning communities, and doing it all with limited resources in a developing nation. If you want to follow the freshest data, FIVOLCS puts out 24-hour bulletins on all active volcanoes every single day. They are on the pulse. In the end screen, I have videos about other volcanic events around the Pacific Ring of Fire, including the earthquake swarms near Tonga and Indonesia that we've covered recently. You should really see those. Because what's happening in the Philippines does not exist in isolation. It is part of a much larger, much more restless tectonic picture. Give this video a like and a hype. Share it. Leave a comment. And if you want to support the channel, you know what to do. Links in the description. I don't want to plug any brands. Let's just keep it real. Stay safe, guys. Be aware. Bye-bye.